Hello everyone and welcome to the Motorgraph World channel. Today we're going to be reviewing for you the Kia Picanto, and in its new color we're going to see how it looks and feels differently as well as how it drives. So let's take a look. We also brought our third generation Kia Picanto just for your reference so that you can compare the both. At first glance, it really does look different, even if it's a facelift and it's a 3.5 generation model. I personally really like the newer version much better because it has a more masculine and rugged feel, but there are four main areas in the front side that have changed. You can see the daylight running lamps as well as the front grille, the radiator grille, as well as the lamps that are in the front part. Even if this third generation is a GT race car model, you can see that this one has been upgraded to a higher extent. So let's take them one by one. There are 8 different LED lamps that have been installed on the new Picanto. You see them at the edges, 4 on each side, which makes it look much more stronger. It pops out with the headlamps. And also this grille. You can see why it's called the tiger nose. It kind of has that nuzzle, but I wouldn't call it a full-grown tiger, maybe a tiger cub. And then bottom with the bumper and this high black glossy feel. Actually, this is more of a premium model among the 3 different trims, but if you do opt for the edge up version, you'll get this black high glossy one instead of this black matte one. It does look a bit better, doesn't it? But overall, you see that it has become much flatter at the front, which is a little bit more rugged and it gives you a tougher feel. Then now let's look at the profile or the side of the car. In fact, not much has changed on the profile of the car, but except for a couple of details. First of all, let's take a look at the new wheels. You did have an option before with the Kia Picanto that you could opt for 14, 15, or 16-inch wheels. But now they've eliminated the 15-inch option and you only have 14 or 16. Personally, I would advise you not to go with the 14 inches. It looks very empty and it looks very humble, let's say. But the 16-inch version fits very well with the Picanto and the size of it. And you can see that it has a full design at the front and it's using a 195 45 16-inch as well. But here's the point. You only can get the disc brakes, as you can see at the back, only if you opt for the edge up version. And as you can see, it's a square set of wheels. So if you look at the profile, not much has changed, but you can also see there are small details here and there that have. Now let's look at the back. The back side has changed a lot, just like the front. It's become a bit more flamboyant and rugged. And you can see the bumper has become much wider and flatter. So in fact, the car looks much bigger than it really is. The details and the lights have changed. So you'll see the small lights come out as you are reversing. And you see the chrome garnish detail on the bottom, which is also an additional feature of the car. But these are actually fake mufflers on this side because you only have the one muffler here. But it actually gives it a much more balanced look because of the design, don't you think? So now we've popped open the trunk or the boot for you, and you can see it's not that big. Considering the size of the car, that it's a mini compact segment, it's not that bad either. Just to give you some perspective, it's more than enough to have maybe 1 or 2 of these bags inside the trunk, and you don't even need to fold your back seats either. Without folding the back seats, it's around 255 liters, so it's not that bad. And you can also have the option of folding the seats. Let's try putting in some other luggage. So this is probably an average size for me. You can put in 1 quite comfortably. And let's try another one. I think that this might get caught in the head of the trunk, so we will try and stand them up. And this way you can comfortably put in 2 of these sizes. These are probably carry-ons that you would normally use, and so 2 is okay for the 255 liters. So if you fold down the rear seats, it actually looks much more flatter than I expected. Of course, there is a slight angle, but still you get much more room. But there is a slight hump at the front or the mouth of the trunk, so you do need to realize that there is going to be a slight bump in the road. So this is probably your average size carrier, and it fits comfortably inside the trunk. And you can also stack up other smaller ones on top. There we go, that fits very comfortably. It gives you around 1,010 liters in the room of your trunk. So if you do need more space for your trunk or for your luggage, this is the way to go, unless you have people sitting in the back. So now that was the trunk, let's take a look at the engine room. As you can see, it's quite spacious, and I can actually see the bottom of the car even, and you see that it has a lot of room. The room itself isn't very large, but actually this is a very small engine as well. It's a 1 liter, 3-cylinder gasoline engine, and the maximum power is 76 horsepower and maximum torque is 9.6 kilogram meters. So in Korea, they have discontinued the 1 liter turbo engine. They've also discontinued the 5-speed manual stick shift. In Korea, they're only going to be offering the auto transmission with the 4-speed version. But in the overseas markets, we do expect that they will be offering 1.25 liter and 1 liter turbo engines as well. So keep a lookout on in your market if you actually have those models. So now let's go into the car. So first of all, I'm going to adjust the seat. So you have the forward and backward, and now I've adjusted it to the right length. Mind you, I'm very short. And then you also have the tilt forward and backward for the seat, and of course the height adjustment as well. I'm not going to need that much, so I'm going to put it back down. And now with our steering wheel, I don't think that this has much more of an option, so I'm going to adjust this downwards. It only has a tilt, and now I'm ready to drive. First of all, I must say that the seats have improved. I have experienced driving the previous generation of the Picantos, and I always thought that the seats were a bit too stiff and hard, but now I've finished adjusting and I have a little bit more lumbar support on my lower back as well. So this is really important when you're driving long distance, but this one, I think I really like the seats much better. And now for the visibility. Sitting from where I am, you have great visibility outside. I must say that the side mirrors are placed on the A-pillar and not on the door frame, so there might be some corner areas that are considered as blind spots, especially if you're living in regions like Europe or anywhere else. And also, because this model has quite a thick and a wide C-pillar, you might have some blind spots. But then again, this model, or the facelift version or 3.5 generation, also has more safety features like the blind spot collision avoidance assist, which we will talk about later when we're driving. But since it has that safety feature, maybe that won't be that much of a problem. The materials that have been used are either high gloss black gloss, or you get this matte plastic. And down here, you have the knobs for air conditioning. In fact, it might look like leather inside for the seats as well as the steering wheel and the knob, but this is actually faux leather. And I had my thoughts about faux leather, that it would be sticky, it would look tacky, but in fact, it really looks authentic and it feels really great as well. And you also see the design features that are with black and the metallic orange and the orange stitching. This only comes in the highest trim level that we have for this car. You see the orange details and the stitching as well. At first, when I heard that it would be black and orange, I really prayed that it wouldn't go overboard, but they have kept it to a minimum, so it's not too bad actually. And it goes with the exterior color, the honeybee color. So here you have the USB port. If you connect your USB with a wire, you can also connect that to your Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And here, since it's summertime, I have turned on the seat ventilation, but they say that this air ventilation is provided just for the driver's seat, unfortunately not for the other seats. But then again, you also have the air heated seats for the winter seasons. You also have that in 2 different levels, but this is another feature that I really like. Heated seats as well as heated steering wheels. Heated steering wheels really comes in handy in the winter seasons in Korea. If you're not living in a cold region in the world, then it might not be very effective, but if you're in cold areas, this is absolutely something that it's a plus factor. I've just noticed that the armrest is located really back here. You know, a lot of people who would want to drive this car or who is a right size for this car, I believe would be quite small or short. But for me right now, it's really hard to access the armrest because it's kind of located all the way back here. Even if it has a slide feature, yeah, maybe the tip of it, but I don't know if it's really handy. And even if you slide it back and forth, it's not very sturdy. You can feel the plastic and the actual housing shake, and it's not a very smooth slide either. And I can still open, and you can also put something in it. Let's try putting in a water bottle. It's not that deep. It doesn't close. So now let's take a look at the glove box. So here is a 2-liter water bottle. Let's see if it actually fits inside. Oh, it does. But you have to push it in because of the edges. It kind of will squish the water bottle, but nonetheless, it fits. And now for the sunroof. This is another option, which is around $400. But I must be honest, if you are going to invest in a sunroof and if it's an option, come to think of it, I think that I would like it much better if it opens up wider than just maybe 30 centimeters, give or take. So now let's take a look at the passenger seat or the rear seats. At first glance, that you don't have much room in the back. And while I was entering, there was a slight hump here. So you have to lift your feet, of course, but you have to be cautious not to trip. I'm 162 centimeters and my seat, driver's seat, is adjusted to my height. So you will probably get this as the maximum knee room. And I must say it's not that much. And for men or women who are maybe above 175 centimeters or more, they might find it a little bit tight in terms of legroom. Headroom, you get more than enough. I think that this isn't that much of a problem. You do have a slight curvature here. You get a little bit more headroom over here. So even if you were much taller than I am, I don't think headroom will be that much of a big problem, but in terms of legroom, they might find it a little bit tight. In terms of actually putting stuff behind the seat, or in terms of the water holders or cup holders, there is nothing you can go with in the back seat. There are no air vents anywhere. There are only the speakers at the bottom, and nothing to hold the cups. You don't have an armrest in the middle because these seats fold up altogether. You do have the headrests that are adjustable, but not much there. And as for holding any paper of any kind or magazines or books, you only have one holder behind the passenger seat and not behind the driver's seat. So in terms of other convenience issues, there's nothing. The mid-tunnel here is actually quite low, so you would have more leg room in the middle. But as I mentioned before, this armrest in the middle, it extends way back here. So it's actually a big hurdle, and it's a barrier for you to move around your feet because it gets caught. I keep on kicking it if I want to move over there and back here again. So in a city area situation, you don't need to really put a lot of pressure on the vehicle or the engine, and so it's a very smooth ride. Listen to the engine revving up, and it's just gotten to 60 kilometers, now to 70. And while it's revving up to that range, that speed, it's a little noisy. You can really hear the engine working. And again, when I accelerate, you hear that sound really putting a lot of pressure on the engine again. But bear in mind that this is a 1-liter, a 3-cylinder gasoline engine. Maximum torque is 9.7 kilograms per meter, and also in terms of power, it's only 76 horsepower. So you can actually feel that there's a lot of strain put on the engine. So when we're actually doing a U-turn in the city, since this car is very small, you'll see that the turning radius is also quite short and it's narrow. So that also is a benefit to a city car. I mentioned that while you press your foot down on the gas and the engine is working, it's quite noisy. When we did a test out on the highway, when we were cruising at 60 kilometers per hour, it was around 64. And when we had it up to 100, getting to 100 was quite noisy, but then after we got there, it was about 68. So the sound, as I mentioned, is not that noisy once you get to a certain level, but actually revving it up and getting it to a faster speed actually is quite noisy. Let's test the suspension a little bit. So here comes a bump in the road. Well, after you pass that, you can really see that it's not that bad in terms of shock absorption and the overall suspension. You have torsion beam suspensions at the rear, and in the front you have McPherson strut, and so I think it's quite moderate. And relatively speaking to what I drive, which is a really just rigid car, I don't think that it's too bad. But mind you, no one's going to be racing in this car, and they're not really going to be doing that much in terms of going off-road or anything. So given that as a basis, I don't think that it's too bad in terms of the suspension. So we're going to try and go out on the highway now. So let's try accelerating. Can you hear the engine revving up? Because I just got to 100 kilometers per hour just now, but as I was revving up to that 100 point, you could see that the engine was having a hard time and it was difficult getting to that speed. But we did do a test before briefly with the car. Of course, you're not going to consider this a high performance vehicle, but nevertheless, we wanted to see how long it takes to get from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. And in fact, it took around 20.9 seconds to get there. So it actually does take quite a while. So if you're one of those drivers who just uses their car just to commute inside the city or just to pick up your children, I mean, I think that the standard model and the 1-liter 3-cylinder gasoline model is perfectly fine. But if you are a commuter that really needs to get on the highway and needs to do a lot of distance in terms of the length of your journey, then I would recommend maybe going for a different option like the 1.25 liter engine or the 1 liter turbo engine if that's also available in your market. And right now I'm cruising at around 85 kilometers per hour. And now that I am up to a certain level in terms of speed, you don't hear that much noise from the engine trying to rev it up. But nevertheless, since it's a compact car, it's one of the smaller segments, you can hear a lot of noise coming in from the tires, as well as a little bit vibration in the passenger seat when there's no one sitting on it. And I can also feel a little bit of vibration on the driver's seat as well. So because this is a small engine, I'm driving at around 100 kilometers per hour right now, but the RPM is currently at around 3,000. But since it's only a 4-speed automatic transmission, if you keep your RPM at 3,000, then of course your mileage will take the fall. And so it won't be really good for your fuel mileage as well as your efficiency. Right now, we've done around 45 kilometers in total for our overall trip. And the mileage stands at 9.7 kilometers per liter. So as there was a car approaching behind me and I turned on my left turn signal to change lanes, it immediately tells me that there is a car approaching and that I should be aware of it. So here I can also use the cruise control. It's just a basic cruise control. If you press the cruise control and then you put it on set, it will continue on the path at that designated speed. And it will also adjust for you with the traffic. If you also have the lane keep assist on, which is the button with the steering wheel sign, then it will also help you keep within the lanes. As I said before, this model has various different options that you can choose from, and it has a lot of safety measures considering that it's a micro segment car. So what did you think about our Kia Picanto? Well, I personally had things that I liked about it and things that I thought could do a little bit better. I personally would like to recommend this micro segment compact car to anyone who drives around the city, drives maybe up to 60 kilometers per hour, or maybe a housewife that's just picking up her children from a day-to-day basis. Then it would be a perfect car. I'm sure that you have a lot of comments or questions. If you do, please post them and leave them on our Motorgraph World channel, and don't forget to subscribe. With that, thank you very much. This has been Mari Cho.